Welcome back everyone. In this video we are going to discuss about types of epithelial tissue, and this is the part 2 of our video. We know that there are two types of epithelial tissues. One is lining or covering epithelial tissues, which could be of three types: simple, stratified and pseudostratified. In our previous video we have covered this part of the epithelial tissue. Okay, so you can watch the video. The link is given in the description box below or in the end of the video. Okay, now today we will be covering the secretory epithelial tissues or glandular epithelial tissues. Okay, so there are two types of glandular or secretory epithelial tissues. One is unicellular gland, which are scattered here and there or in the pseudostratified tissue. Okay, one example is goblet cell, which mainly secretes mucus, and they are present in small intestine and respiratory tract. Okay, they are mainly columnar or cuboidal type of cells, cup-shaped cells present in the pseudostratified epithelial tissue. Okay. On the other hand, there are multicellular glands. Multicellular glands can be of two types. One is exocrine gland and another one is endocrine gland. As we all know, exocrine gland have both duct and secretory portions, while endocrine gland lost their ductal portion and has only secretory portion. Endocrine glands are mainly concerned with hormonal secretion. In this video, we are going to discuss mainly about different types of exocrine glands based on their duct and secretory portion structures. Okay, so now the first type, based on the branching of duct, we can divide it into two types: simple type and compound type. When the duct of the exocrine gland is unbranched, we call it simple gland. Okay, and when it is branched, we call it compound gland. Now, after branching of the duct, we are going to focus on the structure of secretory portion. If the secretory portion is of tubular type, then we call it simple tubular, and if the tubule is branched, we call it branched tubular. Then it could also be of coil type, then coil tubular. On the other hand, the secretory part can be of cup-shaped or acini shaped or alveoli shaped. Then we call it simple acini or alveolar, and when it is again branched, then we call it branched acinar. On the other hand, the compound glands, that means whose duct is branched, can also be divided into three types based on their secretory portion. If secretory portion is of tubular type, then we call it compound tubular. If it is of acinar type, then we call it compound acinar or compound alveolar, and if it is of both type, tubular and acinar, then we call it compound tubular acinar. Okay. On the other hand, based on secretion, we can also classify exocrine glands into three different types: merocrine gland, apocrine gland and holocrine gland. On the other hand, merocrine gland can also be divided into three main types: serous gland, mucus gland and seromucous gland, based upon their nature of secretion. Okay, so one by one we will discuss each type of exocrine glands present in our body. So first of all, based on the branching pattern of duct of exocrine gland, we can divide it into simple or compound. Simple exocrine gland means the duct is unbranched. Okay, so see the first one here. You can see this is the first one, which is known as simple tubular. Here you can see the white portion is the duct portion and yellow portion is the secretory portion of the exocrine gland. And here the duct is unbranched, that is why we call it simple, and the secretory part is of tubular shape, and that is why we call it simple tubular. This type of glands are present in colon, mucous glands of colon and crypts of Lieberkühn, that is in our small intestine. Okay. Then if the secretory part is of tubular type but it is branched, then we call it branched tubular. See here, the duct is unbranched. That is why this is a type of simple gland. But the secretory portion is branched and it is of tubular shape. That is why it is known as branched tubular. Branched tubular glands are mainly found in uterine and stomach. Okay. Next, coming to the coiled tubular gland. Here you can also see that duct portion, the white portion is unbranched, that is why it is a type of simple gland, but the secretory part is of tubular type, okay, and the tube is coiled, okay. Here you can see some cross sections and these parts are coiled, and you can see it behind, okay, with a dotted line. So coiled tubular gland are mainly our sweat glands are coiled tubular gland. We have all seen the picture of sweat gland and we know that it is a type of coiled gland, okay, but it is a type of simple coiled tubular gland. Next, coming to the acinar or alveolar gland. In case of acinar or alveolar gland, simple acinar or alveolar gland, same thing, the duct is unbranched, that is why it is simple, but the secretory portion is of cup shaped, that is why we call it acinar or alveolar gland, okay, and they are mainly found in urethral mucus glands, okay. Next, branched acinar gland, same thing here, the duct is unbranched, okay, the duct portion, white portion is unbranched, but the secretory portion is of acinar shaped and it is branched, that is why the name is branched acinar, and the example is sebaceous gland, okay. So these are all types of simple exocrine glands where duct portion is unbranched. Now coming to the compound exocrine gland. Compound exocrine gland means where duct is branched, okay, where duct is branched. There are three types of compound exocrine glands. First one is tubular, then acinar, and then tubuloacinar. We will see one by one. The tubular compound gland, see here, the white portion, the duct portion is branched. This has three branch, okay, this branch and this branch. Three branch are here for the duct, and then the secretory portion is also branched, but the secretory portion is of tubular type, that is why we call it tubular compound gland. The example is Brunner's gland present in duodenum. Then the acinar gland. Here you can see the duct portion, the white portion is branched, okay, this is one branch, this is another branch, and this is another branch, and also the secretory portion is of acinar type and they are also branched, okay, that is why it is known as compound acinar gland. They are mainly found in our exocrine pancreas, okay. And last but not the least, the tubuloacinar gland. Here you can also see that the duct is branched, here one branch and here one branch, two branch you can see here, that is why it is a compound gland, but the secretory portion is of two types, either tubular type or acinar type, not like that. Here both type of secretory part is present, both tubular and acinar. See here, tubular and acinar, that is why it is known as tubuloacinar compound gland, and the example is salivary glands, okay. So just remember the examples because those are very important for your examination purpose, okay. Now coming to the another type of exocrine gland classification based on their secretion. Based on the secretion of exocrine glands, they can be divided into three parts. One is merocrine gland. Merocrine gland means where this is the, we know that this white part is the ductal portion and this part is the secretory portion, yellow part is the secretory portion, and in the secretory portion, this acinar part, the cells have secretory granules at their apical surface or apical part, okay, and they secrete these secretory granules by exocytosis and secrete the materials or compounds included in the secretory granules, okay, and then the secretion goes through the duct and opens outside. So these type of gland where the secretory material is enclosed inside the secretory vesicle or secretory granule and released by exocytosis into the ductal part of the gland is known as merocrine exocrine gland. And example is salivary glands. There are three types of merocrine glands based upon what does they secrete, okay. So if they secrete non-glycosylated proteins mainly, that is digestive enzymes, then we call it Serous glands, okay. If they secrete heavily glycosylated proteins like mucin, we call it mucus gland. Mucin comes in contact with water and forms mucus, okay. And if they secrete both types of products like the digestive enzyme as well as watery mucus. The digestive enzyme is secreted from serous acini and mucus from mucus tubules. Then those type of merocrine glands are known as seromucous glands. Okay. Next, going to the holocrine gland. Holocrine gland means, see here, this is a holocrine gland. Here you can see this part is the ductal part, white part is the ductal part, and then this part is the secretory part. Okay, and here you can see the secretion is not made from the secretory granules or secretory vesicles. Rather, the acinar cells, the secretory cells are itself gets disintegrated. So, see, the secretory cells are itself getting disintegrated and releasing the secretory product. That means they are degrading themselves to release the secretory product. Okay, not through exocytosis process. It is total destruction of the secretory cells. Okay, secretory epithelial cells. That is why total destruction, as it says, whole destruction or total destruction, this type of gland is known as holocrine gland. The example is sebaceous glands. Okay, and the last type of exocrine gland based upon secretion is apocrine gland. Apo, the name suggests the apical region. Okay, see here, this part is the ductal part and this part is the secretory part, the yellow part. And here the secretory epithelial cells secrete their material from the apical cytoplasm. If this is a secretory epithelial cells, they are squeezing their apical cytoplasm. That means the upper portion of the cytoplasm as their secretory material. Okay, see here, they are squeezing their upper portion of the cytoplasm as secretory materials, and those are getting released into the duct. Okay, so these type of secretion where upper portion or apical portion of secretory epithelial cells are released to make the secretion is known as apocrine gland. This type of gland is mammary gland, from which lipid is mainly secreted. Okay, so these are the overall types of secretory or glandular epithelial cells. I have covered almost everything. Okay, and if you find this video useful, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching and happy learning.